Gamers, we're pretty simple people. We like our microtransactions like our taxes, non-existent. We like our internet like our work days, fast. And we like our games to be immersive because real life is a constant pain, but we don't want to completely forget how tough reality is, right? People play Dark Souls for a reason. And Animal Crossing. Immersion is an important facet of gaming that's evolved over the years in the form of cutting-edge graphics, realistic physics, and an often overlooked one, dating mechanics. Dating mechanics have existed in gaming for like an extremely long time, for years actually, you can say years, usually in RPGs, role-playing games for our non-gamer moms in the audience. But how can they be immersive to not only simulate dating, but enhance the gameplay? To answer this, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at some data mechanics in games over the years to see how they've evolved. But before we get to the data mechanics themselves, let's talk about the history of data mechanics in games. In this video, I want to specifically talk about non-dating sim games, which if you couldn't figure that out, dating sim games are games where you date people, you simulate dating. You see, it's in the title, dating sim, like dating simulation games. Like that's what they are. I feel like I've over-explained this already. Like this is, you get it. But yeah, in this video, I just wanted to focus on games where dating is a feature, but not the main appeal. You know, dating sims are like a completely different subgenre of gaming. It's cool, they're cool, but like I just didn't want to really talk about those. But hey, we could talk about the history of dating sims if you're curious, Steve. Now, technically, a handful of games from the early 80s had romance as a central theme, including the original Donkey Kong and Super Mario Brothers, which had you go through various platform challenges in order to get the girl. But that's a bit of a stretch, which is why this B-roll footage looks like this. The first true dating sim was a game called Nakayama Miho no Tokimeki High School, released on the Famicom in 1987, exclusively in Japan. In this game, you're a high school student who tried to date a girl that looks a lot like real-life pop idol Miho Nakayama, rest in power. They didn't even just use her likeness, they also used her in the marketing for the game as well as have her do voice recordings in the actual game. Jeez, Nintendo, you're into some freaky business back in the day. What the heck happened to Donkey Kong? Did you put them up to this, Steve? The player is tasked with talking to their classmates, choosing the correct dialogue options while using the correct facial expressions in order to progress the game and win the affections of the girl that looks like pop idol Miho Nakayama. Ignoring the creepy overtones, the social sim elements were pretty revolutionary, with similar mechanics seen in future dating sims and RPGs. That brings us to the first major non-dating sim game with dating mechanics. Harvest Moon. That was a mouthful. That's why I had a pause, because I had to remember what I had to say. Harvest Moon, or Story of Seasons as it's been called in recent years, is a gaming franchise where the player character is given a farm, typically by an older family member, and they're tasked with maintaining the farm while forming relationships with various NPCs. Non-player characters for my gamer moms in the audience. I didn't forget about you guys. Story of Seasons is often credited as the grandmother of the cozy game genre, with games like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. You know, games for people who want to pretend to be gamers. Whoa, what are you doing? You're gonna tick off a lot of people with that joke. Oh, hey, folks, I'm Agent P3's PR manager. Don't mind him. Whenever he makes jokes like that, that just means he's insecure about things that he doesn't know a lot of things about, that he just, makes jokes at other people's expense just to, cover himself up. Anyway, I'm basically just here to make sure that none of his jokes offend anyone. So if you were offended by that last joke, I'm sorry, that's on me. But yeah, hopefully this will be the last time you see me in this video, but knowing Perry, it probably won't be. Despite being cozy games, the Story of Seasons games are pretty involved. Each game tasks the player with harvesting crops and raising livestock, with later entries encouraging time management, giving players a schedule and limited daily tasks. But it gets pretty juicy with the romance mechanics. The first Harvest Moon released on the SNES in 1997, and the player got the option between 5 different bachelorettes and must woo them or romance them if you think woo is cringe, by just choosing the correct dialogue options during conversations or by just giving them gifts they like. The first Harvest Moon laid out the groundwork for the franchise, but the sequel, Harvest Moon 64, laid out the groundwork for the entire cozy games genre. Harvest Moon 64 is very similar to the previous game, with additional features, including a whole other dimension. Ooh, it's in 3D now. But where it gets a little messy is with its dating mechanics, because now you gotta compete with other dudes. That's right, each bachelorette now has a rival suitor you gotta compete against. And if you don't romance your girl of choice over a certain period of time, that guy will just straight up steal her from you. I guess stressing about your crops not getting done by winter wasn't enough, because now you gotta worry about a bunch of Mr. Steal Your Girls. It's like freshman year of college all over again. Darn you, winter snow. And you, Mr. Steal Your Girl. But the rewards for marriage in this game are pretty rewarding. I don't know, writing's hard. In addition to your wife moving in with you, you can also conceive a child together and participate in other couple-specific events once you're married. But to add a hint of realism to the game, your wife can actually just leave you if your affinity points with her go down enough. So divorce still exists in this made-up fantasy world. But yeah, this is the general formula for all the Story of Season games, and Harvest Moon 64 is considered by most to be the main inspiration for a lot of Koji games. Stardew Valley in particular. While not officially a part of the series, it's considered by most to be its spiritual successor, and it's even received high praise by Story of Season's creator, Yasuhiro Wada. Created by one-man game designer Eric Baroni, or Concerned Ape as he's known professionally, Stardew Valley follows the same gameplay structure of Story of Seasons, with a more open-ended community-driven experience and some light RPG elements. Romance in this game is also done in a similar fashion to Story of Seasons, with the player choosing the correct dialogue options while talking to a potential bachelor or bachelorette and by giving them gifts. A big difference between Stardew Valley and Story of Seasons is Stardew Valley's ginormous fan base. It is a really big game. And with its multitude of romanceable options, that's sure to lead to a lot of debate online on who's best girl or best boy. A debate popularized by one of the best games from the late 90s, Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was a landmark title for gaming when it released on the original PlayStation in 1997. Gamers all over the world got to experience the incredible journey of Cloud, Strife, and friends as they race against time to save the world from a faceless corporation and a crazy man who's trying to play God, which we don't like those guys too much. But Sephiroth's pretty cool. I like Sephiroth. Final Fantasy VII was well known for its cutting-edge movie-like visuals. It's very beloved and endearing characters. Whoa! And gameplay that actually holds up. It's still pretty fun. Like I said earlier, Final Fantasy VII was the pioneer of that age-old question, who's best girl? With the options of the innocent optimist, Aerith Gainsborough, or the motherly childhood best friend, Tifa Lockhart. What is even that? Blocks? Seriously, blocks? Is this what people were attracted to back in 1997? I'm sorry. No. You're not sorry. You're not sorry, or you would have taken this bit out. You have friends that you know adore this game. You're still insulting it with this bit, so I hope it was worth it when they disown you. Final Fantasy VII has an affection system that raises or lowers between Aerith and Tifa depending on certain dialogue choices or actions the player takes. For example, there's a moment early on in the game where the love triangle falls from a great height. When they land, Cloud has the option of either waking up Tifa or Aerith. Depending on who he wakes up first, that gives an affection points towards that person. Moments like this are found throughout the game. Oh, and there's also an affection system between two other party members, Barret and Yuffie, but Barret is treated more as a bromance and Yuffie is an optional character, so most players probably won't romance her. Also, she's 16. Once a party member is at a high enough affinity level, the reward is going on a date with them at the Gold Saucer, which is pretty much this game's version of Disney World, before Disney let them cross over, of course. The first time the party goes to the Gold Saucer, Cloud and his date just play a bunch of mini games around the amusement park. When the party goes back to the Gold Saucer later on, Cloud gets to go on a more intimate date with the highest ranking party member, where they see and participate in a play, and then they get to go on a gondola ride where a special scene plays out between the two. While the data mechanics in Final Fantasy VII were relatively simple compared to a game like Story of Seasons, which, you could divorce your wife or whatever in that game, they were so innovative due to them naturally integrating with the rest of the game. And this general formula was repeated in future RPGs, including Final Fantasy VII's Remake duology. Oh, yeah, okay. Now I see it. The Final Fantasy VII Remake project is a planned trilogy that aims to remake the story of the original Final Fantasy VII, with the first two parts being the only ones released as of this recording. Each game aims to reimagine the story from the original by expanding on the world and characters while adding new elements like more action-based combat. The first game in the Remake duology, simply titled Final Fantasy VII Remake, only tells the opening hours of the original, so the party never goes to the Gold Saucer. However, conversations and actions Cloud makes in the original are translated in the remake, and the ultimate reward with the highest ranking party member is a special scene unique to Remake that plays right before an important in-game mission. In the second game, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I know that's a very creative title, it adapts a portion of the story that sees the party go to the Gold Saucer, and it recreates both romance scenes pretty faithfully. Some additions to the romance mechanics includes these character-specific side quests, which if a player completes really well, that earns them affection points towards that party member. You can also earn affection points through gameplay by performing these team-up attacks called synergy abilities. There's also some quality of life updates added, including the ability to actually see your affinity points progress with the character so you can plan accordingly. I don't know why it took them 27 years to figure that out. They didn't even do that in Remake. You can also go on a date with Red 13, but he's a dog, so Actually, I don't know if he is a dog. Regardless, he's not legal. He's not legal. Another popular gaming series known for its romance mechanics is the Persona series, a turn-based Japanese role-playing game where you play as a high school student who goes to school by day and kills monsters in dungeons by night. Did I mention that this is a Japanese role-playing game? This mixture of social sim and traditional turn-based combat are what makes the Persona series so beloved by fans. That, or the obscene amount of hours I have to put into these games to complete them, has caused some sort of Stockholm syndrome or something. You know what? I'm gonna give that to him. He's actually a pretty big Persona fan. He puts Persona music in all of his videos. Heck, he's probably playing Persona music right now. The boy can't help himself. Now, I don't know if you noticed about me, but I'm actually a pretty big Persona fan. I put Persona music in pretty much all my videos. Heck, I'm probably playing Persona music right now. Your boy can't help himself. But when I say I'm a pretty big Persona fan, I mean I'm a fan of Personas 3 through 5. Who out here is a fan of Personas 1 and 2? Those are some ancient games. That was my fault for giving them the benefit of the doubt. Even though the first Persona game came out in 1996, the social sim mechanics the series is known for wasn't introduced until Persona 3 released 10 years later. The protagonist can form special bonds with any party member or relevant side characters with social links. These social links can give the players benefits when they do their dungeon crawling at night, and completing them increases the strength of the Persona type the social link is paired with. Personas are pretty much like Pokemon, but way more mature. Of course, maxing out social links with any female NPC gives you the option of dating them, and you max these out like you do with any other game, by choosing the correct dialogue options and giving them gifts. However, choosing the wrong dialogue options can revert a social link in some games. Persona 3 is infamous for this. Also, Persona 3 kind of encourages you to have a harem, since rejecting any girl causes their social link to revert. Thankfully, in later games and its remake, you can friend zone characters and still have your social link intact. You can also still date multiple girls at once if you wanted to, you monster. You also have your own social stats, pretty much your personality traits that you have to rank up by doing various tasks or everyday activities. But the catch is, and you better be paying attention to this part because I'm giving you some exclusive insider information about the Persona games. They don't share this with you on the cover. You can't progress some girls' social links without certain social stats being high enough. Shoot, you can't even talk to some girls if their social stats aren't high enough. Ah, man, I gotta get my charm to max rank to progress with Makoto. That's gonna take so much time. take a bath. You stink. You smell like you just gotta have a fighting game tournament. Okay, now you gotta eat this specific food at this specific maid cafe. Okay, this is the only restaurant in town that'll give you the charm that you need. Polygon told me to do this. Okay, now you gotta read these specific novels, these specific books. I promise you they'll get your charm maxed up. You have as much Riz as Keanu and Michael B. Jordan. Again, Polygon told me to do this, and they don't lie, they don't do that. Your reward for maxing out a potential partner's social link gets more nuance with each game. Typically, you get to go on dates or romantic events with your girl of choice. These romantic events include going to the Christmas Eve festival, having alone time on school trips, and of course, Valentine's Day. Your romantic options also get more creative with each entry. All the games allow you to date most of the major girl characters, with Persona 3 Portable being the only Persona game where you get to date the fellas. But only as a girl. But Persona 5 gives you the most variety when it comes to your romance options. So in addition to be able to romance any of your female classmates, you can also romance a teacher who moonlights as a maid for a call girl service, and you can also romance an adult nurse who tests all her like unlicensed, potentially dangerous drugs on you, and you pretty much are guinea pig. But you know what? You gotta go along with it because she's like this reasonably attractive goth chick with blue hair and stiletto high heels. This character right here, you see him? This character over here, he's in a fighting game with Super Mario and Minecraft Steve, and he's also in a Sonic racing game with SpongeBob SquarePants and Minecraft Steve. Steve is showing up a lot in this video, and I do not know how I feel about that. The Fire Emblem franchise is another popular series that has romance mechanics in it, but like the Persona series, they weren't implemented until later games. Fire Emblem is a turn-based tactical RPG that thrusts the player into a conflict between two fantasy countries, and the player is tasked with controlling these little armies. Like they're actually like characters, and they have to fight other armies, enemy units. That's what we call those. And it's usually in a story-based game. They're pretty cool. I like the Fire Emblem franchise. I've only played one, but I think they're pretty cool. I want to play more of them actually. But anyway, that's the point. The first game to implement romance mechanics was the fourth game, Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, or as the fans call it, FE4, because that is a mouthful. Jesus. Released in 1996 on the Super Famicom in Japan, the romance mechanics in this game gives the player strategic benefits in gameplay. What makes the Fire Emblem series stand out is the player pretty much plays matchmaker with the other NPCs. FE4 has a love system between all the female and male party members, and they earn love points between each other just by the player placing them near each other. Man, I wish it was that easy in real life. Hi, how you doing? My name's, okay, you're just gonna, all right, you're going that way, okay. This not only allows for more powerful moves between already established couples, but during the game's time skip, the married couples will have children that carry over their parents' traits in the second half of the game, meaning the player can strategically match certain couples in order to have better soldiers later on. That's actually pretty cool. This game was made for shippers. This breeding mechanic, I hate that that's the only way I can describe it, has been used most famously in Fire Emblem Awakening, which pretty much saved the franchise while also breathing new life into it. Along with, creating new children, most Fire Emblem games also give a romantic ending between two units in the game's epilogue. While the Fire Emblem games on Switch abandon the breeding mechanics, they make up for it by adding more social system elements like Persona. You can go to tea parties, give gifts to raise affinity points, and just have conversations with them. Now, if you've been paying attention to the games that we've been talking about thus far, you'll notice that they have like a similar feel, vibe, art style to them. Well, that's because these are considered Japanese role-playing games, or JRPGs, which is a whole subgenre of gaming. Not only because they're produced in Japan, but also because they have similar story beats and game mechanics. Game mechanics that include the unique romance mechanics that we've already been discussing in this entire video. And while the romance mechanics in Western RPGs, or RPGs that are produced in the Americas and like in European countries, also have unique romance mechanics, I believe their contribution to the evolution of romance mechanics themselves come in the form of their impact to pop culture, both for good and for bad, as we'll see. For example, Fallout, that popular post-apocalyptic RPG. You should know what Fallout is. It has a very popular TV show on Amazon Prime. If you watch The Boys and Invincible, you should know what Fallout is. Anyway, Fallout has the very first same-sex romance option in a video game, with the second entry released in 1998. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty revolutionary for that time period. Where we get into some issues is most of the romance options in that game, they're usually crap, how do I say this without getting demonetized? They're engaging, sensual, companionship offering, and romance technicians, or escorts for short. Dude, your mom is watching this. Yeah, the first two non-Bethesda Fallout games were revolutionary for their time, even if the romance mechanics left a lot to be desired. Even the first Bethesda title, Fallout 3, doesn't fare much better, with one of your only romantic partners being an escort. And in the next game, Fallout New Vegas, pretty much all your options are escorts. I mean, it's in Las Vegas, so I mean, I guess that's part of the culture over there. And if you think that's messed up, you can seduce an early game antagonist as a female character, and you have the option to either kill him in his sleep or let him live, only to find that he got killed by another character later on. So not much time for romance either way. In the latest mainline Fallout game, Fallout 4, which I feel like that actually was released a while ago, right? Like, oh yeah, 2015, literally 10 years ago. Bethesda, make more Fallout games. What are y'all doing over here? We don't want Fallout 76, even though I heard that was better. We want another mainline Fallout game. I'm getting off topic. Fallout 4 is the first game to have a dedicated romance system between the companions you meet throughout your journey. And after you complete their character-specific missions, that unlocks their affinity chart, which raises or lowers depending on dialogue options you choose while talking to them, or actions you do in front of them. For example, a character may like it when you lockpick doors in front of them, or give them sarcastic remarks while talking to them. And for the record, I don't know why I'm defending Bethesda, but Bethesda isn't like afraid of commitment or anything like that. And their other popular RPGs, Skyrim, and I guess to a lesser extent Starfield, you can actually marry your companions and even live under the same roof. But you can't make babies. If you want to make babies, you just play Story of Seasons or Fire Emblem. Another popular Western developer that wears his romance mechanics on his sleeves is BioWare. They're famous for making games like Knights of the Old Republic and the Dragon Age series, games that have very prominent romance mechanics. But their most flagship franchise is their sci-fi soap opera epic, Mass Effect. This critically acclaimed trilogy, yes I said trilogy, although I heard the gameplay in the fourth game isn't that bad, tells the story of Commander Shepard as he shepherds in the human race into the Space Alliance, the Citadel, while battling the nefarious Reapers, who are the bad guys. I'm not gonna explain what they are. You should just play the games if you're curious. This video is already long enough. What I will explain is this game's emphasis on player decisions, as the choices you make have significant effects on the overall story, which includes your choice of romantic partners. In the first game, you will have the option to date 3 different characters depending on your gender, and you can choose to keep the same partner throughout the entire trilogy, or you can just date other characters in the future game. You can also choose to break up with your previous partners, or if you want to be an evil little shepherd, you can just cheat on them, you monster. In Mass Effect 1 and 3, the romantic options is kind of like just open up as you progress through the story. And if you want to get with a girl or a boy of your choice, you just, choose the correct dialogue options like we've been talking about in the other games in this video. And in Mass Effect 2, you just, complete a character-specific mission, and then, you guessed it, choose the correct dialogue options. So your reward for successfully romancing a partner in these games is having an intimate scene with them, which unfortunately caused a little bit of controversy amongst news outlets that thought video games were promoting escort-like activity, which, I mean, you do see a little bit of skin, but it's very PG-13, so little Timmy isn't going to be seeing much. Actually, little Timmy shouldn't even playing an M-rated game in the first place, so that's more on his parents. But this was back when Mass Effect first released in 2007, so that was definitely in that hot coffee era of gaming, if you remember what that was. But you want to know what's crazy about all of this? Gaming got worse after this. Like, you can have escort-like activity with a bear in a game that came out literally 2 years ago. BioWare definitely had a huge impact on game mechanic philosophies for Western RPGs, as future Western studios took heavy inspiration from Mass Effect. One of these studios include the mostly beloved CD Projekt Red. And I say mostly beloved because they had a pretty decent track record up until they had a pretty bad game launch a couple years ago, but they mostly fixed it, so we're good now. Mostly, hashtag never forget December 10, 2020. Anyway, one of their most popular games to date is The Witcher 3. This critical darling is the third game in the Witcher trilogy, which is a given, and follows the adventures of Geralt as he searches for his adopted daughter as she runs away from the elusive Wild Hunt. This game stood out for its innovative open world design and its well-written and immersive side quests, but it also offers a unique romance system. Geralt has the option to romance multiple women, but he has two canon love interests, that being Triss Merigold, a love interest from previous installments, or Yennefer Vengerberg. You pursue them like you do in other games, completing their quests and choosing the correct dialogue options. But a twist happens if you decide to pursue both of them at the same time. Towards the end of the game, they both imply a 3-player Smash session with Geralt, and they just unplug his controller at the last second. This is the best analogy I can do. My mom is already disappointed in me. And the game just ends with neither of them ending up with Geralt, pretty much punishing him for two-timing them. Man, the Persona series can take a lot of inspiration from this. The worst you get in Persona 5 is literally a slap on the wrist. And CD Projekt Red's next game, Cyberpunk 2077, which that's the game earlier I was talking about that had a battle lots, that game. This game also has strides with romance mechanics. Cyberpunk is another innovative RPG that arguably gives the player more freedom than The Witcher 3. The player assumes the role of V, a rising mercenary who tries to make a name for themselves in a futuristic but unforgiving Night City. Along their journey, V befriends a handful of memorable characters. Some of these characters V can enter a relationship with. While pursuing a romantic relationship is the same as pretty much all the other games in this video, certain characters will only romance V depending on V's body type and voice, adding some more romantic nuance for LGBTQ relationships. They've come a long way from Fallout 2. Your reward for romancing a character in Cyberpunk 2077 includes going on romantic dates in one of your apartments and, of course, a nice little homage to Mass Effect's escort-like scenes, but like way more graphic. I am censoring all of this. I'm trying to get monetized in this video. Yeah, this is pretty bad, but this is not even the worst of it. We haven't even gotten to the bear game yet, which, oh, hey, look, that's next. Larian Studios is another major powerhouse for Western RPGs, as they developed and published a lot of critically acclaimed games. 2014's Divinity Original Sin and its sequel most notably put them on the map. However, their most recent game, Baldur's Gate 3, made them a household name. Baldur's Gate 3 is a turn-based tactical RPG that plays out like a D&D campaign. Dungeons and Dragons for my non-gamer mom. I'm still looking out for you guys. Thank you for sticking for this long in this video. Baldur's Gate gives players the freedom to approach any obstacle or problem in any way they see fit. But their most popular feature is, of course, their romance mechanics. We wouldn't be talking about it in this video if it wasn't, like, you know, applicable or whatever. I'm rambling right now, but I mean, I'm saying a lot of obvious things, but like, you know, it's for the video. This is almost done, guys. We're in the final stretch. And you're given like so many romantic options in this game, but for them to be eligible, you have to gain their trust. You do this by, you know, completing their character missions, but also choosing dialogue options they like, both while talking to them and during missions. And these responses can be like super nuanced, as a character who likes morally good responses could disagree with the correct response during a story mission. Once you get a character up to a high enough affinity, you can begin dating them, which includes participating in escort-like scenes, which also includes that infamous bear scene that we've been talking about, which was actually just a guy that can just transform himself into a bear and he just does, you know, his business. And I thought Japan was weird. Actually, wait a minute, where's Larian Studios from? Oh, they're from Belgium, which means they're from Europe. And European people, they kind of do some weird stuff over there. I actually, on second thought, Americans also be doing some weird stuff over here too. We just all have a weird disease called being human. So yeah, dating mechanics in gaming are pretty fun. Even if most of them are similar to each other, it gives us that extra bit of immersion in game worlds that we love by letting us hit on best girl for 30 plus hours. Unfortunately, there is a negative stigma behind games that have these mechanics, which has caused some controversies outside the gamer sphere. But if I'm being completely honest, these game mechanics were never meant to be realistic. People who pursue these romance mechanics in these games are equivalent to people who watch romantic Hallmark movies. Yeah, they're both unrealistic and fan servicey, but they're ultimately meant to just be harmless fun. Now, is there a possibility that these games have had a negative influence on men and women by enforcing unrealistic romantic goals? I mean, sure, yeah, you could make that argument. The interactive nature of these games could have that negative impact on people. However, I feel like there's worse examples out there, particularly examples that are more predatory and target people who are actually lonely, like AI companions or online dating coaches, but that's another topic for another day. But to end on a more positive note, seeing and learning about how these games implement these romance mechanics and how they, implement the gameplay was a pretty fascinating experience. But you want to know what else is a fascinating experience? Liking and subscribing to my channel. Or if not, if you don't think that's a fascinating experience, you can always just dislike the video if you didn't like it. It's a free country, you can do whatever you want. But while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and hop on over to my Discord server. You get to talk to a lot of cool and like-minded people, and also get updates on my future videos, because God knows it takes me so long to make these things. Like, I started working on this thing back in June of last year, and now it's coming out in February of 2026 if all goes according to plan. Join the Discord server if you want to hear more about me making these videos. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and more videos will be out soon. Bye.